I'm Chap Bettis, author of The Disciple Making Parent, and this is my audio blog, where I read some of my blog posts in audio format for your convenience. In today's episode, we're going to be thinking about what causes fights and quarrels in my marriage specifically, but it certainly applies to our family. Every marriage relationship experiences conflict. Sometimes it can be healthy conflict. Many times it can be destructive conflict. I've already written about preventing destructive conflict in another blog post. James 4, 1-2 is well known, but often not thought of when it comes to the marriage relationship. This verse can provide some special help in understanding your last conflict and moving towards a more positive discussion next time. James 4, 1-2. What causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? You desire, but you do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God. Let's take these two verses phrase by phrase. The question, what causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? James starts with a rhetorical question, but we should stop and examine it. During a disagreement with our spouse, we think the answer to this question is easy. It's my spouse. It's the other person. He or she is the cause of this disagreement. He will just not see things my way and is stubborn, or she is so thoughtless and inconsiderate. So the question is, what causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? But now James will go on to tell us what causes those fights and quarrels. Answer 1 is inner turmoil. Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? One set of fights can come because we're inwardly in turmoil. Perhaps there's stress at work, or someone criticized us at church, or we're jealous of what we've just seen on social media. And this internal turmoil causes us to lash out at the one that we're closest to. So answer 1 is inner turmoil. Don't they come from the desires that battle within you? Answer 2 is competing desires. You desire, but you do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. Here James provides a second answer to his rhetorical question. It's our desires that lead to outward clashing. This rhetorical device is an obvious reference to Jesus' teaching on anger as murder, and that's found in Matthew 5, 21-22. It's doubtful that the early church was actually murdering each other. But James is saying that our desires are causing us to get sinfully angry with one another. What James has done is drill down to the heart of a disagreement, clashing desires. She wants to move. He doesn't. He wants their son to play football. She doesn't. She wants to eat out. He doesn't. Clashing desires. So what is the answer? Will James argue for some Zen-like, desireless existence? That's not the case at all. There are good desires as well as bad. There are also desires that are neither good nor bad, just different. Understanding the desires underneath the disagreement can help us understand each other. I've written on my blog also about the difference between positions and interests. Well, let's think about turning those arguments into prayer. While understanding desires is helpful, it's not enough. James goes on to prescribe prayer. You do not have because you do not ask God. In other words, just as an argument is a prompt to dig deeper for the desire, it's also a prompt to pray. When I have a disagreement, I should also sense a growing desire to pray. Well, how can prayer help? Number 1, we can pray for understanding of our inner turmoil. Remember the earlier point about fights coming from passions or wars within us? We can bring that turmoil to the Lord in prayer. Perhaps we should, quote, externally process the inner turmoil with the Lord before we dump it on our spouse. So number one, we can pray for our understanding of our inner turmoil. Number two, we can pray separately about the competing desires. If the conflict involves different large issues with our spouse, then we should make them a matter of private prayer. We can bring the conflict we're having, for example, should we move, and ask the Lord to either change the other person's heart or to change ours. We can ask Him to give us insight into His mind on this issue. So secondly, we can pray about the competing desires. And third, we can pray together about the competing desires. Finally, a third option is to make the disagreement a matter of prayer together. Calmly go before the Lord in prayer. You could say something like, Lord, we're disagreeing over this issue. Would you lead us forward? Would you help us each see what we're not seeing? Show us what you want us to do and how you want us to act. How we work through conflict shows off the gospel to our children. We don't want our children, when they become adults, to tell others, my parents were constantly fighting. Instead, we want them to say, well, they were very different people, but the Lord helped them work through those differences. Thank you for listening to the Disciple Making Parent audio blog. You can visit our website at thedisciplemakingparent.com to find more resources for the family. And if you enjoyed this episode, please consider telling someone else about the show, perhaps someone in your church. And also leave us a rating or review. Both of those small things help out a lot. Thanks for listening.